Hello, and welcome to the third episode of our line of gaming talks, R.A.W podcast, your gaming podcast. And I'm here with Raw today. And wait a second, R.A.W looks quite different today.
Yeah, he
What's
ditched
happening
us.
here?
Adele ditched us today. I think he went pursuing the good weather. I've heard something like that.
Oh, wait a minute, is it so? Pedro, isn't it Pedro Macedo Camacho? Man,
Uh,
we
th-
have a special guest here today.
hey. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure, man. Yeah, thank you.
We're
Vessel,
happy
I'm
to have you,
really
Pedro.
we have a world celebrity here. I'm really excited with this conversation. Know Pedro
Yeah,
for a
that's
while,
not
man.
true.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
not
It
true.
is.
That's not.
It
World
is.
celebrities are Hans Zimmer, the world.
Hans Tim, we have
Hans
better than that.
Zimmer.
I have the Portuguese Hans Zimmer, Pedro Camacho here. And I have to be honest, I'm really excited. I think this is going to be a good episode. I know Pedro for a while. We've worked on a really cool title together. He will talk more about it in a bit. But it's going to be a great conversation. We were missing this importance of music and audio in video games. And now we have a legend here with us to tell us through the process. Oh, yeah.
To give a little bit of a backstory or of a credit to Pedro, he is also known for music for example, Call of Duty Black Ops, including Black Ops 6, Star Citizen, World of Warcraft, Shadowlands, and many more epic projects. And actually, I'd love to open this before we let you do your own introduction, Pedro, to show a piece of your portfolio, just so everyone has an idea what kind of music you compose. So let me just
Oh,
quickly share my screen here.
I can
I
see
have your
that.
website open. Which one in particularly would you like to share?
Chorus is a nice one.
Yes.
Chorus is a good.
Yes.
I think chorus. It makes sense. It makes total sense. Go
Oh,
play
okay.
it.
Let's have a look, or let's have a listen,
It's
actually.
here. Epic, I can tell you.
Wow.
That's
Yes,
epic.
yes.
Applause.
That's the
Thanks.
word, the epic. And I can tell you already, this brought me a lot of memories and emotions because, well, we'll dive into it, but brought me memories, you know why, and we'll talk also about it, but brought me also emotions, the type of music that really gives you something. It builds some momentum. I had a mix of feelings now. It's amazing. I love this song. And the streaming of the song doesn't make it justice. I invite everyone to listen to the soundtrack because it's one of his masterpieces, but it's great. It's a great audio, and there's a great piece here.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for broadcasting. Yeah, it was a very special one. It was recorded on March the 2nd, 2021. So we were still in COVID time.
Yeah.
So, and it was in my daughter's birthday, which was very special. The orchestra recording, and pretty much I did a ton of versions for this. I mean, it was a passion project. I mean, I remember when I started working on chorus, the team was the first brought into chorus like this. So they said, so our team is kind of not too big, so we're going to make a double A game. This is not a triple A game, but we want triple A music to eventually make our company grow into and go to another level. So my goal when I was scoring this soundtrack was to really make something truly special, that if you could listen to it on TV, on any sort of series of Netflix or whatever, or when it becomes really big as a big game. And I still believe this IP can become a very big IP. I don't know why, but I really think so. There are some really good elements. When I started making the first versions, when the game started being created, and I kept reviewing it for a long time. I don't know if I reached 100 versions, but it was close to that. So yeah, it was already approved, but I was kept improving it because I thought it would be good for the company to have some. I mean, well, something that make justice to their future. Sadly, Chorus 2 never happened. Still hoping that someday it will, because I truly believe that can be a really great game. I'm no kidding. There was something good about the IP that made me. I like the way they. How can I say it? The company was already mid development when I got in, but the ideas they had initially were constantly changing. So it wasn't something very easy for them. And towards the end, I think the idea was great because it mixed something sci-fi with a sort of magic and ritualism, and so it was very cool. So it's which is not a common junction of elements. I really liked it, to be honest. Really liked it.
I have a quick follow-up because as I mentioned, I'm really proud of this IP because we actually worked together on it. And you mentioned something about the potential of the IP. For example, could be further developed in the Chorus 2, for example. I know the creative director well was Marek Berka. If he's watching us, a shout out to him. He was one of these, not only creative director, game designer, but a game visionary. I like to call him game visionary. This was one of the games that, despite being a space shooter, it's just at the end of the day, people just see, oh, it's spaceships, you're just flying a ship and that's it. But this is one of the games with the most elaborate and intricate narrative that I've seen. And the whole story of Nara and the AI and how that develops. And then there's a sound design component and the audio, the music to wrap that up. And I think this started as a double A, ended up as a premium double A, award-winning premium double A on the music. I think we cooked something really cool, really special, and so on. Where am I going with this idea? I will drop you a statement. A game without music is like a film without light. You can play it, but has no soul. Do you agree with this?
I absolutely agree. Not because I am a composer, but I am a fan of audio in general. And for some certain types of games, I'm actually not a fan of too much music. For example, I was a professional gamer when I was very young, like a StarCraft pro gamer, and also played in clans, Guild Wars and FPS as well. So when you're competing, I mean, music, to be honest, I don't need it. I don't want it. I want to speak with my colleagues, hear where people are, or get signals. So I want to be focused on the game because it's like a sport, and I like that. But for games where there is narrative, where there is story, or where there's spacescaping or just exploration, I think music just makes. I mean, at least I tried to do that in this score. I think I did it. It's like when you see the screen is in front of you, but with the music, if the music is done properly, I think it expands the screen to, I mean, the screen just looks bigger and space looks deeper. That's what I feel. That's the kind of feeling I felt when I played so much Skyrim, for example. That's a game that really made me feel special in that way. Let me just tell my family too, because I left all the doors open, but now the family is here. Just a second.
They can
Just a
join us.
second.
They can join us.
I know, but let me just tell them I will close the door.
Now we can put some music,
Elevator music.
elevator music. Yeah.
Exactly. It's very important.
This part is going to be part of the podcast. Yeah, we make it part of the episode. Now it's
We
the
make it
time
part of
that
the episode.
we would crack a joke right now, but I'm not prepared for the jokes.
But you have time.
Yeah, time to build up.
Yep, I'm back. I'm sorry. But what I feel is that music makes everything extremely more special. And I do believe that, according to my experience on Star Citizen and some other IPs, I think the music really can make a difference in the sales if they are linked together with proper marketing. I think that really makes it work, at least in my opinion. That's what I feel.
So the music brings a lot of the emotion, the feeling of a game. So if you have this exploration game and you have this sci-fi drones going on, you really feel the genre, feel the game. And this is for me very important. So I'd love to hear more from you about this, about composing. And you tell us you are actually a pro gamer. That's one of your backgrounds. On the music side, was it always games? Did it come from another medium?
No, it came from classical. I mean, I always loved games. I play games since I'm 3 or 4 years old. So I started with the Spectrum, went to Commodore 64 and Commodore Amiga, started making music on the Commodore Amiga. Actually, Chorus is like a homage. Chorus main theme is a homage to the Commodore Amiga trackers, which is, I mean, for younger people, that's kind of really old school stuff. But basically, back in the day, trackers were like four lines with were instruments, and you just had 4 channels. So in course, I tried to replicate that, but with one sheet. I added on top vocals, so it was like drums, orchestra, percussion, drums, orchestra, percussion, and synths. That was the 4 elements. So they were kind of like as if there was like a super highly powerful tracker. Probably back in the day, trackers wouldn't allow so much stuff, but anyway, that was the idea. And then the vocals were on top, which were sang by Yanga Bold, very nice singer, loved her. She made a very special rendition of this. Actually, I just thought about her when they changed the game to a more ritualist style of sci-fi, which more shamanism. Sorry, the right name is shamanism. So I thought, okay, I know what I'm gonna do. I changed the music completely. Everything needed to be changed. Well, the client didn't like it too much because we had to go back and redo a bunch of stuff, but I think it was worth it because when you do a new IP and you want to make it proper the first time, at least on the music, that's what I wanted to do. And yeah, I think I'm very happy about that. The music, I think, really makes a game better. I mean, so hard nowadays to make you unique. I kind of feel I did it in a way in chorus because the kind of vocals are not this, because everyone does vocals like more like something more melismas and very legato, and this was very pre-scripted with some alien-ish vocals, which I kind of scribbled, and Yanga developed a little bit more, so it would sound like it's like one of the languages from the IP. And I think that altogether, I mean, they gave a very unique to it, in my opinion. That's what I can say.
I just wanted to say as well, the vocals really stood out for me, and it's really cool to hear how you made sure that was unique. So you basically used, just for me to understand as well, because I'm very curious, you basically used instead of a standard legato kind of system, you made it more processed.
I remember I had the intro, which had the melody from the thematic part of the melody, like a thematic melody that would be used like na 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 na. It was the kind of main melody. I used small segments of that, especially the initial one. That part was reused frequently throughout the soundtrack. But then I thought I had to showcase the soul of the game, the fighting spirit of Nara, which was the main character, and the shamanism around the game, and Nara, and the way that Nara was linked with spaceships. So the spaceship itself was like an entity or some being. I don't think they made it. I think in a future Chorus 3 or Chorus 4, I imagine the spaceship could be something. I'm not saying it would be like a Transformers, because that's very cliche already, but something that makes the ship come alive. I think that would happen, in my mind at least. Also, the harmony was very different than usual, because it's first it resolves in a major chord, na, and then when it goes around to repeat the pattern, which was like something very common in the tracker days. We had patterns and sequence, and na, which is, I think, was a cool detail in my opinion. But the idea about the vocals was not only to make it very not repetitive in terms of always in the same center of gravity of the harmonies, and so it's always changing the root chord of the harmony, if you will. But also I wanted to make it percussive on its own, and as if it would drive everything else, just the voice. And if you could hear just a voice line in the end, I think you'll hear that. I remember I spoke with the singer a lot about my daughter, which was also, Nara is a girl, so it's the main character is a girl, and I thought, and when I look at Nara and the fighting spirit, I mean, I look at my daughter because she was so like bursts of energy in terms of happiness in my case. So I remember speaking and showing photos of my daughter to the singer, to Yanga Bowles, which she was super nice, and she really liked it. And I told her, I want you, when you sing, as if you were bursting with the happiness of a little kid, because I mean, to be a fighter, you need to have some like free wills to want to make your voice heard. I think that inspired her a lot, and the performance was completely on another level after we spoke and we discussed and what was behind it. And for absolutely coincidence, it was the only date available for the orchestra was on the day that my daughter's birthday. So I remember the orchestra played the happy birthday song on the session just before recording this. That was super cool as well.
Pedro, tell me, I would like to quickly follow up on something, because hearing you and connecting the dots, and it feels actually very inspiring. I'm not in the music composing industry, but I feel inspired now to go downstairs and start making some music. No, I'm joking. I would suck at it, but I can see, I can understand the process behind it and how you built something that is the track that we've just heard is almost celestial, almost it felt like it transcends time. And you were explaining that you took elements from your real life and inspired by your daughter and thing, but already thinking about the narrative and how this could potentially connect the game with the second release, with even a third release. And now on this line, and it's the sometimes people, and this happens also with movies, the dialogues, you forget the narrative, but you are still humming the melody 10 years, 5 years, 20 years later. So as a music composer, as someone that makes music, how do you design music that leaves this kind of legacy?
That's hard questions. Oh my goodness. No, I mean, I really don't rest until I find a melody that I really like. That's one. And a melody that is, I don't know, cantabile. So I how do I can say, something that I feel that I like to sing. That part is very difficult or impossible to describe. But I think the next part to make it memorable is also because if you have performers, or if you do in your computer, you have to perform the music anyway. And I think it needs to be, I mean, it needs to have like, how can I say, a very human touch. I think the part human touch of feeling, I think that's what you carry with you, is the feeling. And when you get the feeling and the mood, because everyone sang, everyone played in a certain direction or with some emotion, then you remember the melody because of that as well. There are a ton of things, technical things that we could go into. I don't know if you want to go into those technical details.
I love it.
I don't know. Trying to be as short as possible because people usually don't care too much. But what few things that I did in this track and other tracks of Chorus that maybe make it more special. There was a tendency nowadays to record orchestra with the click. You have a click on the R.A.W. Anyone who uses music has like a metronome. And you kind of record that so that when the orchestra plays, everything is synced together and just paste it and it's done. Bing. You have -1 track to be made. And it works well. To be honest, it works. But you lose the performance. And that's something that I really didn't want to lose for Chorus soundtrack or for any soundtrack that I am the lead composer of. And that's a constant thing I do in all my soundtracks. In Chorus, for example, the start. So they played once with the click, so they could know what was the kind of intended pulse, but then they recorded it without pulse. So we will record it with no headphones on all the musicians. So the first part, that was the intro. So the intro is played with it was on the third performance. I said, okay, this one is good or something. It was like that. Then there was a part which was with click, which was that very rhythmic part, because I mean that was rhythmical and I really wanted that way. Then there was a mid part which was very rubato midway that bridges the first part with the second part. And I don't know if you saw that, but they increased the tempo as they played the second time with the exchange of key. And that subtle difference just creates a human emotion that comes from the classical performance. So that wasn't without any click. I had to then rearrange my arrangement to fit with the performance that was captured on that day, so that it will fit. Then it comes part number 4, which was again with the rhythmics, the rhythmic part with just the exploding percussion everywhere. That was with click again because it need to be very well synced, and I think it made sense. And then the final phrase is again no click. So it's a mix of styles of mixing the orchestra and also the way of recording. And I did that all throughout the soundtrack. So when you hear one of the ambient tracks, there weren't too many, but I did that as well. And I think just made it more special. So when you try to make something unique, and I think that's what makes, John Williams' music so good. I remember watching a documentary, which is no secret for me, that's quite obvious for anyone with a classical background, about when he recorded the Hymn of the Fallen for the Saving Private Ryan soundtrack. And he had the full choir there and a full orchestra there, just sitting in the hall. And he asked the leading actor, which was Tom Hanks, to read the letter that then Lincoln, no, not Lincoln, I'm sorry, guys, I have to check it out. I think it was Kennedy. I'm not sure. Sorry about my ignorance to all the American viewers. But there was the letter that the president of the United States at the time wrote for people that were on the World War II, people that died. And he read the whole letter. And Tom Hanks has a wonderful voice, and he just declamated the letter. That was real stuff. And they asked me, why did you wasted time of performance to have him read the letter? And he said, because I gained performance. Everyone after that would play it and sang in a completely different manner. And that's what was captured. Suddenly, everything changes because suddenly you're not just reading notes, you're sending a message, something like that. So I think that's what makes a game soundtrack special, is when you know you want to send a message. And if you want to send a message, I think somehow between the notes, something that's not written, it's not in the notes, it's not anything, but the purpose gets through. When it's real, I remember, just for you to get an idea, my father heard my first ever track. It was made in a Commodore Amiga, by the way. And soon after, he passed away, sadly. So I was very young. He was passed away with brain cancer and stuff like that. It was not easy, not an easy time, but that's what happened. Making music for me, for some reason, it's not because of that, because I always loved music. Well, even when my father was completely healthy, I always went into music not as like, oh, it's my profession, or I have to get this X income or something, or with those goals. I'm making this to make it worth it, and also thinking like, if I die at some point, because we all die, that's something we don't usually talk about, but that's it. So just to get an idea, my father at my age was about to die or near dying. So that's it. It's cold truth. We're not here forever. So if you do something, make sure it's worth it, because when you're that bad, you're going to look back and see, where did I spend the last 5 years? Was that worth it? And I think, to me, I believe now, I'm not sure when I hope it's a long time until a long walk to that situation, but I want to get to that moment. And I believe right now, if I was in that moment, I will not think about the money I got. Even though it's important, because we all need money and games need money to survive and studios need money, everyone needs money, but it wouldn't be the main purpose of doing. I do music because I think it will be special, and hopefully people will come back at some point, or it will be just wasted. I don't know. That's why I do music. So my purpose is that.
That's very beautiful, Pedro. Honestly, it's very motivating and inspiring to hear from you that you can apply this not only to creating or composing music, but to life in general. Just do the things you would love to do. And at the end of the day, I agree with you. If I'm old, I also want to look back and not just think how much money I made, but how much cool things I did and what I would love to do. So I think that's very inspiring to hear from you. I wanted to add, or at least like introduce an angle to your way of saying that the performance was very important in the creation of your music. For me, it is almost as if it's the human part that makes things special in a day full of digital tools. Right? It reminded me really of this very famous electronic dance music artist, Fred again. He blew up, and one of the reasons is because he makes his beats with his mouth. So
I
instead
heard
of
about him.
using,
Yeah.
so he records a song with his phone and he implements those recordings into his track, which makes it sound unique because it's not only digital, but he uses the beat and everything based on his voice. I think it's really cool.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a world beyond the digital click. There's a world beyond tuning. Would give a podcast just about tuning, but that's another thing that makes the real orchestra important. But we are not going into there because that's very specific. There's a lot of math to explain it, but it's super cool. You can clearly hear the difference. If anyone wants to know, you can try to search about the difference between equal intonation, which is the piano intonation, and all the digital instruments intonation, and just intonation, which the physics way that we actually tune chords and sound. This is also applicable for all sound design and everything else. Check into that and you'll be surprised. Classical musicians know this. Great soloists know this. That's why they sound so wonderful, but they are not in tune. Just to make it clear, they do not play in tune. So auto-tune and stuff like that will correct all their performances. And actually, the auto-tune does it in a wrong way because it just copies the piano, which everyone knows was untuned at some point in 200, 250 years ago, with the sole purpose that we could play in any key possible without sounding too much out of tune, but it's never in tune. Just think about that.
Cool,
So
yeah.
if you use a synth, you're out of tune all the time. All the time. So that really leads to I mean, it's not so complicated, but it leads to a kind of more time to explain. But that's important also to know this physics of the sound and the music and the notes. And what else about music? Also, there was one thing that I was discussing with Rod before this, and I think it would be so super cool to show if you want to add it, is that there's a track in, I will link to you.
Yeah.
There's a track in this soundtrack in particular, which is this one. I'll show you. Let me show you.
Let's get it on.
This.
It's very beautiful. It's very kind of calming, but also mysterious. Exploring. I would imagine exploring in a scenario like this.
Now, I want you to hear this next part. Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay, so that was the orchestral part from the in chorus. Just the orchestra without the synths. My test was I wanted to show that I was commissioned at the time. It was not that to write a symphonic poem to make the grand opening of a big cathedral here in Portugal, in my hometown, Funchal, actually. The whole ceilings were just renewed, so it was just absolutely wonderful and a great opportunity to have a new classical piece performed by an orchestra. And I decided to do something. I said, I will use the first minute from a game soundtrack to create the classical piece without saying anything except to the audio director on the game. I will not say to any word to anyone, just to show the world that any music can be good if it's done properly. The only thing that people label video game music as like something, cheap or not classical worthy, So I did that without saying anyone. And you can click the YouTube link now if you want and see the results of a classical concert. And no one ever dreams, no one around that, no one still knows that. So this is like the first time I speak about this. So that was like a secret.
Let's have a look.
It's very, it's, I can't even describe in words. When I hear
I will
music,
describe.
this emotional heartbeat, it's beautiful, it's melodic, has sentiments, evokes so many things. I can see this
I'll
in
tell the idea. I'll tell the idea behind the track. So as Nara came from a dark past, and you remember Rod,
yeah,
he came from dark past. She was trying to redeem herself from a very dark past into a greater future.
yeah,
And that was also a track that I did. So I said, and it was also linked with some of my past because sometimes we have not very nice stuff from our past. It was linked to myself as well. And I said, okay, I know what I'll do. I'll do a track with synths above because it's a sci-fi, but a track that has the main melodic element are the basses together with the cello doing like the glissandi that you hear, like as it and it carries the weight of your past, of your burden, and like as you have to start over sometimes,
yeah.
even you try to get out of a situation. And just like that, that cathedral was dark, completely dark, like the ceiling was all black for 400 years or 450 years. And they finally, after 2 years of restoration, it just became super bright and clean. And I thought it was like a link between my own past, Nara's past, it was the initial link, and also with this cathedral. So it's like going into the light from the dark. That's why the name of the symphonic poem is From the Dark. So that's the idea.
Beautiful, beautiful. You gave
So
me a
it,
perfect hook. You gave me a hook here because I'm hearing you and I see music as this invisible narrative thread that creates identity, that creates atmosphere and all that. But now let me pull this back to the technical side. You have been, and we worked together, but you were making music during game development. And sometimes, the game is not there yet. It's being built, so you are missing context, or the context that you had is not the same. So, how is the process of making music while the game is still in development and things are constantly changing? And how do you manage this? Because a lot of our audience, some of them are aspiring game developers. We also have gamers and curious people. But how can you explain this? How do you make music when the game is not there yet or is changing? How do you approach this? Because at the
yeah,
end of the
I
day, we are talking about the game's identity.
the only problem for me was when the game had no identity or no clear identity. That was a problem to make music. I was very much struggling to make any good things. But as soon as the game was had a solid direction in terms of the story, everything just unfolded in my head together with some nice concept art, which also helps. But I think the most important thing when you have a game is to have a solid narrative, a solid idea what's behind the story or what you want to tell. Because yeah, you're just storytelling, interactive storytelling. It's always comes to the story. When you have no story, that's very hard to make it special. Well, you can do, but maybe you will probably go into more like tropes or the cliche stuff because you don't know what to do differently. So you just go for the safest option. So maybe that will happen a lot. So that's the way I work. I need a solid idea of what is behind this. I think, for example, even if I was scoring even a simple game like a tabletop game, for example, if there was no motivation about the character, about why we're playing that, I think that will make it more generic because the game is also more generic in terms of personality. But this game really, thankfully, thanks to Marek, right? He was the
Yeah.
one who had this idea. I think that's why the music just unfolded in the way it did. And yeah, as you said, and it really won me a very nice award to be in Hollywood. So that was super cool. But I think it's all thanks, to the other director, Philip, and also thanks to Marek, which was had the design. So yeah, I think that was the main tipping point for everything to start working.
Is to get immersed into, to understand the story, understand the narrative, and then you get immersed into the character, and then process starts from there.
Well, it doesn't. If there is none, I have to deal with it, but that's
The
the best
ideal
way,
one.
the best case, the ideal
Ideal
one.
world.
That's when
Okay.
you will create better stuff, I think.
It's really awesome that you led us into your creative brain and share your thoughts there. Very inspiring. And on that inspiring note, would you have any tips for people who would like to go into the space, who would like to become a game music composer?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Well, each person has its own path. There's many ways. The way I did it, that's the only way I can describe. I think it's probably a very good way, not the best, but a very good, is first get a very solid foundation of classical music. I think that's very important. And a lot of classical composition, harmony. Try to be able to write in pen and paper, as I did for composition classes. Have a teacher correct your harmonies, your counterpoint. Start with the building blocks of music. That will help you when you are in tighter lines and you still want to create something unique. Otherwise, you are stuck with formulas. Yeah, and that's the sad part that sometimes happens. Then, side by side with that, learn making music on a computer or learn mixing. There's a lot of stuff to learn, to be fair. But start with the classical composition. But do it side by side, I would say. Don't be fooled by with good samples that kind of sound nice at first. But then when you're writing music, you want to make something with meaning. Just for example, when I wrote this track that we just heard in chorus, there were no sample. I didn't have it, still don't have any sample to make that glidings for the bass. And I made the mock-up to the company without no gliding. It was a dun, dun. But they said, yeah, it sounds nice. But when I went to the recording, I wrote how I wanted. When they heard the final result, they said, oh my goodness, this sounds so much nicer than I thought. Yeah, because that's what I had in mind. But it couldn't be made digitally because you have in your head how it can be done for real. So I think that's a good bonus of doing that. I've been very fortunate to work with in Call of Duty with Jack Wall, which he's the lead composer, not me. For a lot of Black Ops 6 and Black Ops 7. He's an amazing composer, and you start to see that if you're true in what you do, and if you do music with your soul and you really do it because you love the art of making music. It doesn't matter too much if it's for games or not. I prefer games, but it is not the main thing. I think it's making music in general. Then there is space for everyone. I don't feel competition with any composer. Not because I think I'm better than them. That's not the case. It's just I think there's a right project for each person. But yeah, learning when you help others, you help yourself. I think that's a good guideline for any composer that wants to work anywhere. Try to be yourself. Well, that's obvious, but it's not as easy as it looks. Not always you can be yourself 100%, but at least try to do things differently. I know for a fact that the main theme I wrote for chorus was not well received by some sound designers. They didn't like it because it was weird at first. Maybe the version I had at the time was not so clear, but the other director did like it, which was fortunate. And I kept developing until all I had in my head came to be produced and audible. Before recording, they said that the mid part with the soft part was too soft and seemed to lose the pace. Oh, you should cut it, just keep going with the rhythm. And I had in my mind, no, it will be awesome because it will be so expressive that it will never feel like a dull moment after recording because I knew I was going to record live.
I have sorry to interrupt you, but while hearing your description, because we are addressing people that may want to enter the space and hearing from a pro, and there's something in advent here that we have to talk about it, and it's the advent of AI. AI is entering everywhere, including music. I've been seeing some AI tools that can do crazy composition. How do you see that? Do you see them as a threat to artistry?
I
Will
have
help you in your creative freedom? Lean on those. How do you see this?
I mean, I don't judge people. Anyone can do what they want, but I see this in a very clear way. Right now, AI trains on copyrighted material. So because of that, I don't use any AI to create music. I do use AI, however, for another way, which is very important, I think, and doesn't infringe copyright as far as I know, which is create tools. For example, It has helped me immensely lately on Call of Duty and Star Citizen, where I'm the lead composer. In Star Citizen, they want all the stems. When I export a track, it's like you have 100 stems. You export the full mix, but it had 100 stems with so many instruments that they're complex arrangements. And the Star Citizen client doesn't want to receive empty stems. They want the stems to be with audio. The ones that are empty, they don't want to. Okay, but then you waste like 30 seconds for each one of the stems, which are like 80 per track. So that means you waste 40 minutes of your day opening each stem and looking if it's empty or not, and then deleting if it's empty or not. And sometimes you make mistakes because there was actually some audio in the middle and you delete it because you didn't see it. So what I did, I used AI, Claude in this example, to program me a tool for Mac to open a directory, auto-detect silent stems, and delete them within 2 seconds. So that 40 minutes work or 50 minutes work reduced to 2 seconds in each track that I export. Brilliant. And that's not reusing AI because I just used AI once to program. I took quite some time. I programmed some parts, just a few things myself, created a cool icon. My son wanted to make an icon as well, so I used his icon in the app. It's just in my Mac and I just use it and it's
Cool.
always ready to go. No need to go back to AI. Just once it's done forever. Another tool is when I export stems, I'll have my own naming scheme, which I like to use. But the Call of Duty client has a very specific naming scheme. Star Citizen has a very specific naming scheme. And maybe, who knows, Chorus 2 will have a very specific naming scheme. So I create a master namer, like where I create all the 100 rules for all the stems, bits, and how to transform them into what the clients want. So I export a track with my naming scheme that I want, and I transform them in my client's wishes, which saves me like a ton of time because I don't have to make different templates for each client. I just have my own template because I can then morph into it. And that was made once and done forever. Another thing that I do, and actually I can share that with, or you can actually open and check it, which is already public and you can see it. It might take a while to open.
This episode will have a lot of perks, a lot of links and music.
If you click that, it will take a while to download all the WAV files because it's still in WAV files. But I did that. As far as I know, is the only interactive multi-track with RTCP sliders that mimic a little bit how Wise and Fmod works. If the play doesn't work, just wait a little bit longer. There you go. There's all the stems for the track that I did for Star Citizen very lately, which is featuring Juan Garcia Herrero's wonderful bassist. His nickname is Snow Owl. He plays in Dune and all on Hans Zimmer live concerts. He's amazing, wonderful human being. Love working with him. Here, try to hear. Click play, see if it works now.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there you go. If you go down and there was a slider. Okay, the enemy is getting closer. Change it.
Oh wow, this is so cool.
Oh, the enemy is closer.
And then I can.
It only works for this initial part.
Then all the stems, they react to this.
Yeah, everything.
Just like you see. That is so cool. And you built this as well.
Yeah, and now the next parts are only static, but you can hear it. This is the part C, which is the intro for the combat part of the game. It will stay there in that loop until there's enemies and you hear it.
This is my jam. Oh.
And then part E is the exit cue. When the mid combat stops, it plays that. But you can skip. That doesn't work in the end, but it could.
It's good.
That's cool,
Interesting,
man.
right?
That's
That's
really
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
So that was the AI helped me to program that. There was a lot of stuff that I did have to program myself and CSS edit, but
Really cool.
they without the AI couldn't have done it. But it's done, and it works for any track that I want with any stems that I want, any way that I want, and it's mine forever. So speaking about AI, AI can be beautiful, but not in the way of cheating your creativity. I don't think that's cool. I don't think that's. I think that will have. I don't think you should do it really, because when I have a client like Starsin, you create a track and they say, "Oh, that's cool. Can you reduce that note just 1 dB down?" It's all in the mess that the AI did. And you have to have everything separated, stem like 100 stems. It's like absolutely impossible for games. I think it's extremely difficult for movies because you have to create all the stems. For pop music, maybe you can do some, I don't know, but I think there's so many ways to do stuff. Record yourself saying, do sometimes a mistake can be a hit. It's good to make mistakes, and the AI doesn't make mistakes, so it's probably that won't work. That's what I want to say.
I have a final, and maybe this is a sequence of the question, the previous question. And I promise this is my final question, but I'm really interested on this one. We know that, I think we all agree here that music is probably the most important part of game development. But unfortunately, in my experience, still today is one of the most underfunded aspects of game development. But if I extrapolate this to indies, they don't have always massive, budgets, orchestras, tools, or whatnot to make really cool music and really cool audio. So, what would be, from your experience, and this is also some advice, what's the secret sauce here? What can indies, aspiring indie devs that also want to, have really cool audio and so on. And also because you've mentioned AI and the advent of AI, would this be a solution for them? Or do you always lean on, okay, AI is great to support you as creating tools and so on to enable you, but
I
pragmatically speaking, the indies have very small teams. So how would you approach this?
I think anyone can do whatever they want as long as it's legal. I don't have any secret, I don't have any way to know what's the best way. I would say that I still believe that music is, I think all art is, when it's done by someone, can be extremely special, especially not only because they create better tracks and better music, even if they don't sound so refined at first. I think they will keep going until it's better. That's number one. I really believe in that. But number two, which is the most important, is that they can work together. When you show art to a composer, he creates music, and then you show the music to the artist, and he gets inspired by any music. And that's when you start to get magic, when things start to work as one. And I don't think with AI you will get away with that. It will sound like, so there's something uncanny about that. Something was off, and it will reflect on sales. I'm absolutely sure it will reflect always on sales. For example, remember when in composition there are rules from Bach, since Bach, avoid or really don't make parallel octaves or parallel fifths if you want to create a multi-voice pattern of music, like I didn't do on that mid part for chorus, main theme. Would anyone notice if I did? No, they wouldn't notice. But I did win an award. I did. Maybe has it something to do with that? I don't know. But it's a fact. And it was such a small game. What were the odds to win against marvelous projects from Sony and which beautiful soundtracks that I loved? It's not saying that I did best, but I think every inch counts, every single grain of sand counts. And I think those details which AI won't do and won't nail it, or they will just miss everything and just make sloppy harmony, they really do count in the end. And so if you want to really make money, like really good money, make crappy graphics by yourself. They will sell more. Look at Stardew Valley. It doesn't have amazing graphics, still sold more like all we did. The thing you can do is partner up with some creative and offer him a percentage of what you will get, instead of, if you don't have budget to hire him. That can be very good for everyone. I mean, if when I did Audio Surf back in 2006, which won an amazing award and sold millions of copies, if I had made a deal of a percentage, maybe I wouldn't need to work anymore in my life. If since 2006, but I didn't, so I have to still work. So maybe you put a gamble in a project, and maybe it will be very good for everyone, and you'll grow together, which is awesome. We can great think. Audio Surf 2 was not part of the project because I also didn't want to, and yeah, the game was not successful. But the first one with my music was extremely successful. Maybe it was the music, I don't know, but that's a fact. Stay with the facts. So I think AI is whatever, but show me a game made by AI that sold millions, and I will change my mind. So that's what I can say. Until then, I think that's what makes games click, is the link between everyone.
Folks, you hear it. Hire and work together with your creatives. There you go. That's the way.
If you want to get rich, if you want to just do something to showcase and brag about it, just use AI and everyone clap, but you will not spend a dime on it. For sure. Pretty sure they won't. Even seeing documentaries like the making of will make people want to buy the project. Oh, see how he drew every single frame. Oh my goodness, such an amazing artist. I want to support him. I want to buy him. That's how people feel. That's what makes people want to give money to a project.
Look, Pedro,
Amazing.
this was one of the best conversations that we had here on the podcast. This was very inspiring.
That's what he says at the end of every podcast.
To be
This
very
was
honest,
one of the best.
one of the best, because I'm the only non-musician here, or a person that is not from the audio of sound or whatnot. So I have a different perspective, but I'm very interested in the topic, and I was very looking forward to conversation. And I think I've learned a lot, but sometimes it's not just the technical part of the conversation, is the person behind the other side being able to transmit all of this knowledge and the passion and so on. So it was very, very interesting. By the way, for our audience, check out this game, Chorus. We don't do advertisement. I'm not advertising the game, but yeah, you can check it out. But more because our guests here did the whole soundtrack of this game, so you should definitely check it out because it's definitely worth it. An award-winning soundtrack, and is on Spotify. Also, check his website. Correct me if I'm wrong, Vessel, is musicbypedro.com. Is that?
By Pedro.com.
By
Have in
pedro.com.
mind something. 2 of the tracks in the soundtrack were composed by Alex Pfeffer.
Yes.
Always credit who works with you,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
important. And I really, it was a small contribution, but to me it was very nice. And I love to have him in the soundtrack. And I'm proud that he's there. It just makes us both stronger and more powerful. Work as a team, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I feel.
Do you know what we should do, Pedro? We should do an alumni meeting, chorus alumni. So the old OGs would be very nice, because as far as I know, we are all displaced in different companies now, different projects. So it would be quite.
That
quite
would be
good.
nice. I
Yeah,
would love
would
to
be
have a
nice.
conversation with Mareka.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he's a
But
great
yeah.
guy. Cool.
But thank you very much for everything. This was awesome. And sorry it took a little bit too long to find some stuff, but hopefully the edit will compensate.
It
and
will.
We'll make all conversations. Cut anything you don't like, of course. And
We loved everything, man. And Vessel here is a master. How do you know?
Put it
Master
all
cook.
together.
A quick summary. So I've learned that at the end of the day, it's music is pure emotion. Be true to your story. Use every tool. In this case, was AI that helps you create faster. But remember that every detail counts. That's what makes a true game unforgettable. It's a good,
as
a
a
good summary.
caution above the eye, never use it to create art. Not for sound design, because it trains on copyrighted material. I mean, it's not fair.
Yeah.
Really don't do that. I mean, code, also you can argue that code has copyright, but there's so much. I mean, probably most of the code is open sourced. I hire coders for other stuff, so I don't feel bad about it. I give back to coders, but there are some tools that I would simply not ask people to do for something to delete file. But I mean, so it's a kind of you balance things out, but don't use AI to create art, images, not even concept art. Don't do it. Don't fall into that trap. Once it's done, you cannot unsee what a real artist could have done. You're in a trap. Don't go there. Don't go into that trap. That's all I can say.
You've heard it here. You've heard it, guys. Vessel, do I still have time for my lame joke? We have
Yeah, I was waiting for this.
I
Pedro,
was
prepare yourself. I was waiting for this moment. Rod, please take the stage.
so a Dutch guy and two Portuguese guys walk into a bar. The Dutch says, "I will have a Heineken." The first Portuguese, that would be me, "I will have a Superboc." And the second Portuguese, aka Pedro, looks at them and says, "Water for me, I'm driving the conversation tonight."
No, I would have a beer. Of course, I would have a beer. Probably would be Coral, which is the beer from Madeira. All beers from Portugal are nice, but Coral is ours, so I
The
just
corral. But
Coral.
this was the lame joke, guys. But you are driving the
Water.
conversation tonight.
I'm driving the
Driving
conversation.
the conversation. There we go. Pedro, it
Oh,
has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so
Driving.
much. Please check out Pedro. Really,
yes.
his website. We're gonna share it all, Pedro. We're gonna share it all. And
That's cool.
thank you for watching, everyone.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you.
It
Thank
was
you.
an
Thank you
amazing
again,
episode.
Russell and Rod.
It was an
See you
amazing. It
soon.
was awesome to see you, and we'll have you soon here. Maybe next time we'll talk about Call of Duty, man.
You should try. I don't know. Speak with Jack Wall. Maybe if he wants to brings me in, that's cool. He's the lead. He's
He's
the lead
the
guy on that one. Yeah. He's the leading guy.
we'll
I
bring him
mean, it's
in.
all fair, but he's fantastic. He's a nice guy. Really nice guy. You should do it. You should do
Okay.
it. Maybe I think he will like it. And so I'm just there to help him out, and really proud of that. I think I did help a bit. I like what I did and proud of what I did. I think he's also very happy. So
That,
that's it.
so he's so
I don't
humble,
like
so humble.
I
I
don't
like
like to
this.
take
Like,
I don't like to take credit, you know. It's not my but for Star Citizen, oh my goodness, there would be 12 years of we didn't speak about Star Citizen, which is
we'll cover that in the next episode. Guy Pedro, thank you so much for spending here. I don't know, we passed a bit more than an hour. Our audience will have a really cool conversation coming in one of the next episodes. Thanks for being there, and we catch up soon. Pedro, lovely.
thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you everyone.
Take care.
Nice to see you, Vessel and Rod. Thank you so much. See
Thank
you
you.
Thank you.
soon.
Cheers.
Hey,
I mean, can we get in touch anytime? Okay. See you.
cool. Cheers.
Cheers.